It reminds me of early zombie takeout. Elegant but whimsical.
What's up? Welcome to episode 252 of Zombie Takeout,
Zombie takeout.
the B-Movie and Cult Movie Podcast. I'm Uncle John.
And I'm Scotto.
And before we get to this week's movie, we've got a little bit of news. This is from comicbookresources.com. Ali Larter returns to Resident Evil. Deadline reports that Ali Larter returns as Claire Redfield in the latest Resident Evil film, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson and starring Milla Jovovich.
Is the subtitle for this, I think I see the horse moving, let's hit it one more time?
Written by Anderson, Resident Evil The Final Chapter begins after the events of Retribution, with Project Alice preparing for battle against the Red Queen, who seeks to completely wipe out the last of humanity. I think your subtitle would have been better.
Yeah.
This is kind of a letdown in terms of subtitles, and I only threw this in for the joke, to give you a chance to once again rant about Resident Evil, or at least make fun of it.
7 movies, right?
This is 6, actually, and this is
6.
Obviously the end, unless they decide they want more money.
Oh, boy.
Much like HBO is doing with Game of Thrones. But that's another story.
You're going to make Orgasmo 24.
Anyway, on to this week's movie, which is from 2004, Catwoman. Of course, that brings us to the impromptu plot summary. Sponsored by Toxoplasma gondii, putting the crazy in Crazy Cat Lady since 1908.
And also brought to you by the monkey typewriter theorem. It could take billions to reproduce the works of Shakespeare, but apparently only 3 to write this. All right, let's see how much of this I can actually remember, because it is quite the disposable movie, if you've ever seen one. So we have this woman who's, mousy at her job, sort of, but oddly not named Selena Kyle for some reason.
Well, they explained that, actually.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, because there's been this long line of Catwoman.
Oh, okay.
And apparently there was a picture of Michelle Pfeiffer in the Catwoman costume in all of those pictures. I didn't catch it, but that's in the trivia that I saw.
All right. So she's working for another bastard, pretty much like Michelle Pfeiffer was, and she gets killed because she sees something she should not have seen, gets revived by a cat, and then she has this weird split personality where she has more different athletic ability, and she likes wearing this leather outfit that her friend gave her, and she hits on a cop. The cop does not recuse himself from the case that he's investigating that possibly has her as a suspect. And there's a terrible basketball game scene, and she takes vengeance upon her killer. And hilarity ensues.
Yeah. Also, he's a cop who randomly stops to just help a jumper. Yeah, that's gonna happen.
Not like, I'm not on duty. I'm getting out of here. It is Halle Berry, though.
Yeah, true. Now, my biggest complaint about the movie, it feels like it was made about 10 years before it was. It feels very early 90s. Because there are these sections where it goes into these long musical interludes, once in a club, once in the basketball scene that you talked about. When she first puts on the costume, she does this kind of catwalk thing with the camera spinning around her. Very kind of cheesy early 90s, still not really over the 80s.
I thought it was more of a Grey's Anatomy sort of deal.
I've never seen Grey's Anatomy, thankfully.
Neither have I, now that I think about it. But, one of those, chick shows kind of thing. Remember when we were talking about that about the target audience.
Yes,
And
yes.
we were hopeful about this because we thought, well, it's a superhero movie, so it's got to be for white dudes. Alas, no. They
No.
were trying to broaden the audience for women.
Yeah.
And they couldn't have been more painfully obvious about it here.
Yeah. Also, they kind of borrowed the opening line from Fallen. Have you ever seen Fallen?
I think so.
A Denzel Washington movie about a
Oh,
demon that switches bodies.
yes. Yes, time is on my side.
Well, yeah.
We had that at our movie theater.
The opening line of Fallen is, "I want to tell you about the time I almost died." Love that line. The rest of the movie is dubious. I haven't seen it in a while. I liked it
That's
at the
John
time.
Goodman.
But they almost completely stole that line for the opening of Catwoman.
I was thinking this was kind of like I Know Who Killed Me kind of thing.
Yeah, that too. That's one we have to review
Yeah,
eventually.
that is on the list, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. And then we have Alex Borstein, who I normally like, ever since the Mad TV days, as the sidekick. Not the superhero sidekick, the witty sidekick, best friend type
Yes,
role.
right.
And, okay, she's talking about this experimental face cream that she's been using. They work for a cosmetics company.
Yeah.
And she says she's getting headaches, and we're not supposed to connect that.
Right. It's so painfully obvious, everything. Everything is so telegraphed.
It's past the midpoint of the movie when they finally officially declare that, yes, the face cream was making her sick. And she's been in the hospital for half the movie at this point.
Right. And it was in the first, few minutes of the
Yeah,
film
when she
where
talked about the
she's
headaches.
where she's talking about getting her hands on as much of this face cream as she can and put them on. But hey, I'm getting the headaches lately.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh fuck, why could could you just invite the director to my house and have him bludgeon me with something? Because it would have been much more pleasant than having to have watched this.
A rough cut of the trailer was put online a few months before the film's release, and it drew such heavy criticism that it was quickly pulled and replaced with a new trailer that didn't feature any dialogue. If that doesn't say it all about your movie, the fact that you have to replace the trailer with one that doesn't have any dialogue kind of should tell you maybe you shouldn't be making the movie.
I honestly don't understand how Halle Berry has had a career even after this, because it was just
I wasn't expecting
bad.
to go to this so quickly, but Catwoman won the Golden Raspberry in Worst Picture, Worst Actress, Worst Director, and Worst Screenplay. Berry arrived at the ceremony to accept her Razzie with her Best Actress Oscar for Monsters Ball. And said, "First of all, I want to thank Warner Brothers. Thank you for putting me in a piece of shit, god-awful movie. It was just what my career needed." Read that, gained so much more respect for
her. That is good. But, I mean, she had done Monsters Ball 3 years before this.
Was it that soon after?
Yeah.
Wow. She thought this was going to be a paycheck role. And I'm sure she got paid well, but I think she had back end on it.
Yeah.
Which she expected, to get a lot more out of. Now, on the positive side, I did think casting Catwoman as a hero was an interesting twist.
Right. She's normally a villain.
Mm-hmm. Well, she's kind of an anti-hero normally, but she's fairly squarely a hero in this, aside from a scene where she robs a jewelry store.
Well, yeah, and then returns the jewels.
Well, yeah. So she's pretty squarely a good guy in this one.
It's weird because she has she's not in control of her actions entirely.
Mm-hmm.
So she busts up the robbery, and then returns the jewels, with an apology and cupcakes.
Yeah.
For the cops.
That's right. I forgot about the cupcakes, yeah.
I mean, the only positive I could really grasp for this, if I'm looking for one, I mean, the fight scenes weren't...
You thought they were better than last week?
Yeah, they were. The fight scene... You know what? If we hadn't done I, Frankenstein before this, I'd probably be on the case of the fight scenes. But at least there were some people connecting punches.
Well, yes, there was some connection here and there.
There was actual physical contact in the fight scenes.
But they just felt so awkward.
Oh, of course. There was too much CGI again.
Too much CGI, and the CGI Catwoman was just
Oh,
atrocious.
yeah. Again, though, if we hadn't done I Frankenstein last week, I mean, it's nothing compared to that.
And Halle Berry had a male stunt double, and it's kind of obvious in the fight scenes that it's a dude doing the fighting.
Yeah.
It's just lumbering and awkward, and yeah, okay, they connect, but I honestly I think I preferred last week's. I mean, not that either of them were particularly good.
This gets half a brain just for not having the stupid flaming
Well, yeah, the
swirly
Swirly Fire, yeah.
things.
Incidentally, that should have been the title last week, Swirly Fire.
I had a couple titles with it.
Now, you mentioned the robbery scene.
Yeah.
In that scene, she also started doing an Eartha Kitt impression randomly.
Yes.
She just starts purring, and if you've ever seen Eartha Kitt on the old, 60s
Of
Batman series,
course.
that's the voice, and then the purr and all of that. It was this sudden change in voice when she'd been Catwoman for a while, and seemed odd.
Well, and that's kind of the problem with her character, I think. The whole, she's not quite in control of her actions and she's got these different personalities coming out. I think we could have used less of that and more of, you know, she's sure of herself and going to kick their
Yeah.
ass.
And less of the tropes, because she has a fight scene with Benjamin Bratt's character, and they'd been dating for a while,
Yeah.
as Patience, I think her real name was. He can't recognize her behind a mask and a cowl, and I know that's a superhero trope,
Of
but it
course.
just looks so silly in live action.
It does.
They're literally like 2 inches away from each other, and he can't recognize her.
I forgot a another title that I'd come up with. I just never had a chance to put in.
Mhm.
Based on a song by Guns N' Roses.
Which one?
Patience.
Oh. Now, has Sharon Stone ever done anything good?
You know, I liked Total Recall, of course.
Okay, yeah, and I've heard good things about The Quick and the Dead.
Yeah.
But she has a habit of picking really horrible movies overall.
Good
Um,
point.
Basic Instinct, I mean, it's kind of legendary, but only for that one scene.
It's pretty cheesy
Yeah.
stuff. Like,
Sliver, we don't even need to get into, though it may need to be on the list.
yeah.
And now this. And of course, she's not in most of the movie, so she ends up being the big bad.
Yeah.
With this horrible explanation of how this experimental skin cream will not only kill her if she stops using it, but is turning her skin into stone.
Wouldn't it have been great if they had kept from us that she was the big heavy
Yeah.
instead of laying that out there for us?
Or at
And
least,
just,
or go to the other side and weave it in so we kind of understand that throughout the movie.
no, I would have rather that have been a surprise.
Okay, yeah, it probably would have been better that way, you're right.
Like if we
Something,
thought the guy was the main, heavy the whole time, when in reality he had no idea what was going on.
right. But instead they went with, no, she's just this side character who you don't really see, and then suddenly she's important.
Well, no, when Patience saw them planning or whatever,
Oh, that's right, she was in that scene, I
she
forgot.
she was very much there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was obvious
Hmm.
that she was in on it all along. Instead of having like a usual suspects moment,
Hmm.
you would have been like saying, "Oh, and this is Kaiser Sose at the beginning of the Usual Suspects."
Right.
And it was like, "Oh, great! I mean, now we just get to watch and get bored."
Hmm. And of course, she sets up Patience, to take the fall for killing her husband.
Yeah,
And Patience gets arrested by the cop that she'd been dating, who, as you pointed out, should have recused himself from the case.
yeah, but there's no other cops on duty,
Mhm.
or in the entire police force to handle such a case.
He's at her apartment with the gun. He basically points out, you could run, you could disarm me, no problem. She decides not to, and to, turn herself in and to go with him. But then she escapes. Why didn't she do that sooner?
Because she needed the cat to demonstrate to her that she could walk through bars.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, she gets her power from a mystical cat.
I thought he needed like a special necklace to have those
Mm.
powers.
Owned by a crazy cat lady, played by Frances Conroy, who really should know better than to do a movie like this. I was a big 6 Feet Under fan, so it was kind of sad to see her in this.
Yeah.
But okay, she runs from the cops, pulls this trick where she slides between the bars of a cell. I'm not even going to try to analyze that.
Well, the bars were ridiculously wide
Well,
in the
yes.
cell. They weren't your traditional jail cell bars. They
Uh,
were almost any thin person
yeah.
could have slid through them.
Uh-huh. And she runs and she steals a car. With her abilities, wouldn't it have been much safer on foot?
Or, yeah, going from rooftop to rooftop.
She's effectively a ninja. On foot would have been much safer and probably faster than a car. And later she pulls this trick with a chain on a bunch of trucks as she's getting away.
Oh, yeah, it was like something straight out of Any Which Way You Can or something.
She effectively tied their shoelaces together.
Right. All she was missing was the orangutan to
Yeah.
say right turn Clyde to knock them all over.
Mm. And then she suddenly has a whip.
You're right. Where did that whip come from?
We didn't see her picking it out. We didn't see her acquiring it in any way. She just suddenly has a whip. Now, fittingly, this earned a gross of just over 40 grand in North America and just under 42 grand worldwide for a grand
Wow.
total of 82 and change against a budget of 100 million.
Wow.
It lost almost 20 grand.
And deservedly so.
20
I mean,
million.
this must have been like a producer's sort of thing, like where
Mhm.
they just needed like a tax write-off of some sort.
After reading the screenplay, director Pitoff, yeah, the director goes by one name, and Jean Ribase, I don't know who he is, presented to the producers an alternative version of the story that was refused using the argument that it was too artistic. This was a total cash grab right off one or the other.
Yeah.
Also, the role of Ophelia Powers, the Frances Conroy's role, was originally offered to Julie Newmar. That would have been a
Wow.
nice touch.
That's what I was thinking. It should have gone to someone who'd played Catwoman in the past. I guess Pfeiffer would ask too much. I
Well,
don't know.
she was originally going to take the role, either that role or maybe she was going to be Patience. I'm not sure. She had other responsibilities. I think it was another role.
Hmm.
So she was in for a while. Fortunately, she ended up not being able to do it because, yeah, this pretty much killed a lot of careers. I don't know that Sharon Stone has done anything since then.
She came back for Basic Instinct too.
Was that after this?
Yeah, that's probably why she came back to Basic Instinct too.
Probably. All right, I'm done with my notes.
Yeah, there isn't a whole lot to delve into this.
And there's no sequel or remake, thankfully.
Yeah.
There was a video game that did not get good reviews. That's about it.
Why would they even made a video game for this?
Because there always has to be a video game tie-in.
Yeah. Okay.
And hopefully no one will ever remake it. Because I don't think this could be done well.
I think I've got an idea.
Okay.
I think the ideal Catwoman, and just hear me out on this,
Mm-hmm.
Paul Giamatti.
Yes.
Yeah, he can't make a bad movie, can he?
I haven't seen one yet, though I haven't seen Big Fat Liar, so...
Well, there you go. Paul Giamatti.
What about Willem Dafoe? He hasn't done a bad one yet, either. I think he would fit the costume a bit better.
It was a firefight!
All right. On the brains.
On the brains.
I think the idea of making her a hero was interesting, and I like the way they kind of separated it from the Batman mythology by saying that there's a long line of Catwoman that was clever and it got away from me being too obsessive about the canon.
I'm not a stickler for canon, and I was kind of like, this is bullshit.
It kept me from complaining about that, but those were really my only ups. I'm going to go 1.
I think what set the whole tone for the movie was that ridiculous intro where they actually had to have the caption of cat mummies found in the ruins.
Yeah.
That sets the whole thing up. This movie was written for people who are in a catatonic state. That just some white noise to keep them.
This is pretty much the definition of institutional cooking.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I said I'd give it half a brain for just for I forget what now at this point, but that is what I'm gonna give it, half a brain.
Doesn't leave you much for next week.
Well,
but before we get to that, what have we learned?
I think I'd like to punch Bob Kane in the mouth. He can say no, right?
Is he still around? Or was he when this was made?
I thought so.
I mean, it might have just been DC, in which case, and maybe DC owns them. I mean,
no, you're right.
I don't think the artists or creators own a lot of those characters.
You're right.
And I've learned that Halle Berry should never be allowed to play any more comic book characters. First, you had Storm, and then a couple years later, she did this, and she's a good actress, but she was just embarrassing in both roles. She just doesn't know how to do comic book characters.
Both of the movies that we've done so far have just been indictments of comic book movies,
Yeah, that's right. Last week was a comic book movie, too.
Yeah. They don't all need to be done.
No.
That's the moral of both of these stories.
And this isn't exactly a comic book movie. I mean, this isn't the Catwoman from the comic book.
Oh, it entirely is a comic book movie, though.
In a sense.
The look and feel of it, they were going for the comic book look. They were going for not cartoonish, but comic book artistic drawing of the city itself, wherever this may have been, because it's not Gotham, of course, right?
No. It does look a lot like Gotham in the Burton version, though. Or it's very reminiscent of that.
Yeah, it was more like that. And the other moral, of course, is if you do a comic book movie, for fuck's sake, don't put a basketball scene in it.
Oh, yeah, don't put a basketball scene in any movie unless it's about basketball. and just don't do the what I like to call the fashion show scene. Where it just shows some kind of action with this, upbeat music, and it's just, 5 minutes of watching something with music. It just doesn't fit.
I was really ready to start hitting my head against the desk during that basketball scene. Yeah. It was really just like, oh my god, what have we done to ourselves?
Well, did you see what I posted on Facebook?
Yes.
Couldn't resist it. But I finished the movie, I couldn't help but saying, why did I want to do a podcast that forces me to watch horrible movies on a regular basis?
We now have a shared experience with Joel Hodgson, though. We are the guys on the ship 2 weeks in a row. Yeah. We might need a break next week, depending on what happens.
That brings us to something interesting. Until next week, when we will either be continuing our current shit trilogy, yes, this is part 2 of a shit trilogy, with Left Behind, or getting a brief reprieve with Pro Wrestlers vs. Zombies. We're still waiting on the DVDs to come in. The director of Pro Wrestlers vs. Zombies is sending us review copies.
And if he can get them to us on time,
if we get them by next Tuesday,
schedule just for him.
We will
for Piper, of course.
If we get them by next Tuesday, we will push Left Behind back a week. We'll interrupt the trilogy. I think we've done that before. For Pro Wrestlers vs. Zombies, a welcome retrieve, because I've heard 2 reviews of Left Behind, and the general consensus, I think, is best summed up with a quote from Casey Kasem: "Ponderous, man, fucking ponderous."
It's my favorite Casey Kasem quote.
Until then, go to zombietakeout.com, check out the album art, the episode description, of course the episode itself, which you're already listening to. Links to find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and YouTube. Links to subscribe via RSS and iTunes. Please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. You'll also find the movie list, every movie we've reviewed so far, and every movie we're going to review, up through, I'm going to say Horns again, but I think we crowbarred something in afterwards.
We have a few things.
Oh, yeah, we did extend it. I don't recall what it is offhand.
We need the third Sharknado. We need Search for Spock.
Yes. So we've got a ways to go. I think we're good through September or something.
Plus Wrestlers versus Zombies in there. Still need to get put in.
Mm-hmm. You also find the request form. If you've got a movie you'd like to hear us review, please leave it on the request form and the recommendations list. Yeah, none of this has a chance of making the rec list. Next week's might if we end up doing Pro Wrestlers vs.
I was
Zombies.
going to say next week's, if we do Left Behind.
If we do Pro Wrestlers vs. Zombies, it has a chance. Yeah, I'm really desperately hoping we get those DVDs because
I think I could use a break.
Yeah. Yeah. You can email us, zombietakeout@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail at 414-368-ZTO1, or for the alphanumerically challenged, you can watch this movie.
On repeat.
Oh, yeah. Clockwork Orange style.
Oh, yeah.
414-368-9861. Of course, always remember that you will always be calling from the middle of Milwaukee, and until next time, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you are.
There you are.
Don't.
What?
Think ever. Consider it a condition of our relationship.
Of course, that brings us to the impromptu plot summary. Sponsored by Taxopod. I will say this eventually.
You picked this word to say.
Yeah, I picked this out, and I can't say. At least now I have an outtake.